Hey everybody, my name's Dustin, and I want to tell you a few things I wish someone had told me when I started playing World of Warcraft, so stay tuned. If you've been playing World of Warcraft for a while now, you probably already know everything that's going to be in this video, but if you're new to the game, some of these things may have slipped by you, because they slipped by me when I started playing. Now, before everybody goes to the comment section to call me a noob, it's important to know a few things about where I was coming from when I started to play. First, I started out as a Night Elf all the way over in Kalmador. This is not the continent that you typically start out with if you're an Alliance character, which is why it took me forever to get over to the Eastern Kingdoms. Second, I'd never played an MMO before. Growing up, I played a lot of other different types of games, RPGs, card games, 4Xs, and definitely Pokemon and Mario, as that's the kind of games I played growing up. But I had never dipped my toes into a MMORPG. Finally, I really love to play Blizzard games. I think the first game that I ever really got into was playing STARCRAFT 2. I loved playing Protoss, they were definitely my favorite race, and then I started playing Heroes of the Storm because that was a game that brought in StarCraft characters. And I really began to like some of the Warcraft characters, so I started playing Hearthstone, and then I finally dipped my toes into World of Warcraft Legion. So yes, I am a Legion baby. My first tip would be to learn how to navigate around the World of Warcraft. It may seem easy as you know about your flight paths and different mounts that you can get, but there's actually a lot more to it than that. One of the things that eluded me for a very long time was the fact that there are portals in all of the major questing hubs and main cities. In different expansion questing hubs, you will usually find portals that take you back to your main city, which would be Orgrimmar if you're the Horde, or Stormwind if you're in the Alliance. However, when you get there, you will actually see a lot of portals that will take you to all of the different expansion hubs, but there are also portals that will take you to all of the capital cities of the other races in your faction. You may remember me mentioning that I started out as a Night Elf, which put me over in Kalmandor instead of on the Eastern Kingdoms continent. It took me a long time to figure out that there were portals that could take me back and forth. So the funny story that I found out later was I didn't actually have to take all of those boats back and forth to get from continent to continent. Just take a portal. It's so much easier. My second tip is about the banks and the auction houses. So there are actually two kinds of banks. You can have your personal bank and you can have a guild bank. Your personal bank is where you can store your own goods and reagents for different crafting materials. And your guild bank is where you can donate goods to your guild, or your guild can store items for the entirety of the guild. Now, for the most embarrassing thing I have in this video for myself is this is how I used to get to the auction house. I wasn't aware that there was an auction house in my main capital city. The only one that I knew about at the time was in Gadgetzan. So every night before raid, I would go to Dreamwalk and I would wind up in the Emerald Dream. I would take a portal out to Feralis, and then I would fly from Feralis to Gadgetzan to use the auction house that's there. The important thing to know, though, is there are auction houses in both the capital cities, in Valdrakken, which is the current expansion's main city hub, and many other places. You can also get to a auction house if you have the auction house mount, the Great Brutosaur, or if someone that you know has it and will allow you to use it. There was one key benefit, though, of going to Gadgetzan so much. When Hearthstone released their expansion pack, Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, I did happen to know a lot of the characters and understand the setting a lot better. My third tip is that add-ons are your friends. I wasn't aware of add-ons when I started playing. Add-ons are kind of third-party software that you can use in-game. They help enhance the overall experience. They can help you track your rotations, the damage you've done, or just change the look and feel of the game. As a starting player, I would recommend the following add-ons. First, weak auras, which allow you to add visual and audio stimuli to the game. You can go to wago.io and find examples of weak auras and also download it for your use. I primarily use these for tracking my rotations and tracking the dots that I have, and to help notify me of specific game and encounter mechanics. Another add-on that I use is called Deadly Boss Mods, but you'll often hear it called DBM. It's a great add-on to help you get notified of mechanics and fights. There's a similar add-on called Bigwigs. You can choose either of these, depending on which one suits you the best. I use DBM because I feel it comes out of the box a little more robust and ready to use, but I believe many of my guildies use Bigwigs as well, claiming it's a lot more customizable. Finally, I want to give you one last tip, which is learning about in-game and class knowledge. As I mentioned earlier, I did not realize what an MMO was. When I got to dungeon quests, I went in to complete them. I quickly got dispatched to the nearest graveyard. I assumed this was because I was undergeared or underleveled. I didn't even know what a raid was. So let's talk about in-game content. First, learn about the content. Each expansion is broken into seasons. Once you reach max level, you can do Mythic Plus or raids, or both. Each season typically consists of a raid and about 8 to 10 Mythic Plus dungeons. Each have their own mechanics, which you can learn about by looking at the in-game journal, or by looking at external sites like Wowhead, or by watching YouTube video guides. Second, learn your class. Each class has a unique list of abilities and talents, some offensive, some defensive, and some utility. Your offensive abilities and cooldowns form your core rotation. Your rotation is there to optimize your DPS. Defensive abilities are there to help you reduce damage or get out of mechanics. And then finally, there are utility abilities. These are abilities that don't help you individually, but help out your group. They may be interrupts, class buffs, or group-wide cooldowns. All of these abilities are what make you a valuable member of your class. Talents can also offer some modifications to your rotation, helping you optimize your class for AoE or single target. Make sure to learn how to use them and when. And last, I'll leave you with some external sites which you can find in the description below. Wowhead and Icy Veins are both great sites for learning your rotation and learning about in-game content. Wago.io is where I find most of my weak auras that I need. There are usually class bundles that will help with your rotation, so be sure to grab one of those out for your class. Each class also has a Discord server. I would encourage you to join your class Discord, where you can find resources and ask questions. Remember that many of those people there are just like you, still learning the game. Many of them may claim to be experts, but try to identify reliable sources by looking for leaders in the group. Finally, Warcraft Logs is a great place to find best performing players, talent choices, and equipment for each class on each fight. I use this when I need to check out how to improve my damage, and I would encourage you, once you get into in-game content, to check that out. Here, when I started my journey in World of Warcraft. I hope these tips were able to help you, and if they did, consider giving me a like or a subscribe below. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.